Hey guys, and thank you for listening to the Campus Safety Voices podcast. My name is Amy Rock, and I am Senior Editor for Campus Safety. Each year, Campus Safety has a Director of the Year Awards program that recognizes K-12, higher ed, and hospital police chiefs, security directors, emergency managers, or heads of security and/or public safety who demonstrate outstanding leadership skills, ingenuity, and selflessness. We name a winner from each sector at one of our campus safety conferences. The nomination materials we receive for each finalist are chock full of notable accomplishments. To give the finalists more deserved recognition, we like to chat with them further to highlight a few of their most impressive accomplishments or achievements they are especially proud of. For this interview, I spoke with finalist Anthony Pluretti, who is the Executive Director of Campus Safety for Widener University in Pennsylvania. And Anthony spoke to his department's 3 guiding principles, which are foundations of a customer-centric team, delivering customer service, and ongoing improvement. Here's our chat. Be sure to subscribe to Campus Safety's YouTube channel and like or leave a comment on our videos, or subscribe to our Campus Safety Voices podcast on Apple and Spotify and leave a review. As a Campus Safety Director of the Year finalist, there are obviously a lot of impressive things that you've accomplished in that role. And before this chat, you and I briefly talked about customer centricity, what that means to you, and how you have emulated that throughout your accomplishments. And can you share in general what customer centricity is and what it means for you and your department?
Absolutely, thank you. Customer centricity is defined as immersing ourselves in the situations, perspectives, and expectations of our customers. It's important for us to all know, especially in higher education, that we're all salespeople and we are constantly selling our customers on our institution. And so when we look at every aspect of the customer experience and how that plays into their larger perspective of how they feel about the institution, it's important to know that these feelings drive their decisions. And so each small observation, interaction, and experience culminates into the larger opinion of that feeling. And so, why does that matter for law enforcement? Well, we worked with, here at Widener, we worked with a consulting company called AAB, and they did this great workshop about a month ago where they showed at this imaginary institution, if the retention rate from first year to sophomores was only about 80%, which is the national average, and then we look at sophomore to junior is better. It's about 90%, and from junior to senior, it's 95%. If we were able to somehow launch new initiatives that would increase the first year to sophomore retention by 5%, at this fake imaginary institution that we had, it would be about 31 additional students that we would have to retain. But if we retain them all the way through to commencement, it would bring in an additional $4 million in revenue for the institution, which is an astronomical number when you think about how many students that is. And so, a lot of tuition dependent institutions, state or private, our departmental budgets and our staffing levels and enhancements that we have for our teams are dictated by that revenue. And so it's important to note that every member of an institution is part of the recruitment and the retention team. And that includes law enforcement. Law enforcement, especially in higher ed, has a lot tougher of a job when it comes to customer centricity than other departments do, just because of our nature. We have to enforce laws. We have to enforce campus policies and procedures. And so naturally that puts us in, more difficult conversations with the community. But looking at it on the bright side, right, it also makes us in the best position to exceed that community's expectations, because the expectations of that conversation are going to be probably, this is going to be a bad interaction. So we can really have a great opportunity to exceed that. And really the first step in that, right, is to just complete an assessment throughout the campus. That's what I did when I first started at Widener. I started in February 2020. I had 1 month before the pandemic locked everything down. So it's been an interesting 2 years to start at a new institution. But, first thing you have to do is just take a look, to look at the, call dispatch and find out how do they answer the phone? Do they sound happy to talk to you? Do they sound like they're going to solve your problem, or they're engaged, or they care? Look at how the officer responds to that call and what's the type of interaction. You're looking at how they appear, what's their patrol and visibility, paperwork, forms, anything that a customer comes into contact with is part of customer centricity.
Well, the good thing about starting when you started is hopefully it can only get easier in some ways for you, or at least you've been through, the worst of it.
Yeah, absolutely.
That's crazy.
The benefit, right, honestly, of starting in the middle of a pandemic is that I got to push the plate or the pause button on everything that happens on a day-to-day campus, things like investigations and incidents that usually would derail overall department strategy and progress. I got to put a pause on that for the first year, which gave me plenty of time to really dive into all of this and springboard kind of the entire initiative.
Yeah, it's kind of nice to hear. Most people just talk about the downside of it, but it's kind of nice to hear it flipped like that. And I know we had spoken that your department has 3 main principles that you follow, and more kind of what we were just talking about, but the first being foundations of a customer-centric team. So what does that mean for you?
Yeah, so the first and foremost, right, we have to recognize that every single member of our department that goes out every single day, they're our ambassadors, they're our salespeople for whatever services that we're selling, essentially, whether it be the institution or just an interdepartmental service that we're working on. So it's really important that those salespeople, right, are going out with all of the tools, all of the training, and the best positive or the best possible energy that they can. So that they can kind of hit the ground running and already have a great opportunity for engagement. And so the first thing that we did at Widener, right, was, I looked at my staff and I realized that, listen, my customers are my staff. And so what am I doing for them, right, as they go on to deal with their customers? And so, you're selling your department and you need to be a good salesperson as well. So I really looked at all of the policies. We had a lot of policies in place that were very restrictive, that dictated, where they had to be, when they had to be, calling out in and out for buildings, guard tracking, all that kind of stuff that really forced them to be doing busy work because we cared so much about, randomizing patrol and just being in buildings, and less about actual engagement during those patrols. And they made the workplace really rigid, really overly critical. There was kind of a negative morale. And so the first thing I did was eliminate those policies. I reconfigured the patrol standards, which empowered officers to take control of the way that they patrolled and responded to incidents and calls for service. And we got a gigantic morale boost from that. And we also had a great opportunity, right, to train them on how to handle those things effectively. Then we looked at, well, let's look at the officer themselves. And so a lot of the big problems with departments is that they're very militaristic. And so their grooming standards kind of wash out any kind of officer individuality. And so we wanted to eliminate that. So, it's important for our customers that they don't just see a uniform, but they see the person who is wearing it. We want them to establish an immediate connection with them over some aspect of that personal appearance. And so we relaxed all of our grooming standards. We allowed officers to grow facial hair, show appropriate tattoos, change their hair color, and allow female officers to wear their hair in a fashion that they preferred. A lot of individuals will look at that and say, well, where's the professionalism or so forth? And, my answer to that, quite frankly, is professional for who? We're being professional for the students, right? We are, I can't tell you the amount of times I've personally observed the student walk and be like, oh my God, I love your ink on your forearm, and then they start talking about that tattoo, but that's a personal connection that we just established. And now that student now knows, hey, I know that person, not because they're campus safety, but because, that's Jason with the awesome tattoos. We also implemented a motivational leadership model. So it's important that we recognize that our own staff have their own goals, their own career trajectories, the things that they like and dislike about the job. And so we empowered our supervisors and taught our supervisors how to ask those questions, how to determine what those things are. Every single employee review every year now asks the question, what motivates you to do your best work? And so then it's the supervisor's responsibility to provide that motivation throughout the year. If an officer indicates, hey, listen, I love athletic events. I love being able to watch basketball and baseball and things like that. Well, guess what? We have to work athletic events. So we'll absolutely utilize you, right, to work those athletic events. And now that officer loves coming in and doing what they're doing. We created better communication between the staff and leaders to increase employee satisfaction and achieve what those individual goals are. If an officer's here and they say, listen, I really want to become a police officer. I plan on being out of here in 1 or 2 years. Excellent. That sounds great. instead of trying to retain an individual, let's give them all of the tools that they need to be successful in their life. Because then for the 1 to 2 years that we have them, they're 10 times more satisfied with the work that they're actually doing and providing. And we're working well with them. So we created a new officer and supervisor training program that focuses heavily on customer centricity as an equal priority as safety. And then some other implementations that we did were, letters of recognition, fun games on patrol and in the office, bulletin boards and, who am I quizzes and, picture hunts and scavenger hunts and things like that. We had to stay very busy during COVID when there's no one on campus. So the other thing, right, is we created, the whole point of all of this, right, was to create a really extremely fun and relaxing place to work. Our staff morale has skyrocketed. Staff come in happy and they're ready to engage. And when your staff come in excited and happy every single day, imagine the kind of energy that they're bringing to the community when they go on patrol, when they answer calls, when they're put in these high stress situations. At the end of the day, you got to remember your staff are salespeople. Take care of them first, and they'll be ready to deploy the same customer centricity that you want them to at the institution.
That's more important now than it has been in a long time, with so many people resigning and leaving their job post. And I wanted to go back and just make a quick comment about what you're talking about with grooming, where it sounds, I feel like people might hear it and sound like that's not like a big thing, but I think people seeing themselves reflected or represented in police or someone who is, keeping them safe and responsible for their safety, it just makes them feel more comfortable, I feel like, in a lot of ways. And also, like you said, if you can relate to someone who has tattoos, like conversations that campus police might not have had if they hadn't seemed approachable in a certain way, just opens up so many conversations with students that might not have been had if that weren't the case.
Yeah.
That's great. And so on to the second principle, which is delivering customer service. And there's an overlap in what we're discussing, I'm sure, but can you speak to that a little bit?
Yeah, so once you have the foundation, once you've built your team to be this high energy, high morale, high functioning team, right now it's time to launch them upon the community. But there's a couple of things, right, in law enforcement that we always have to overcome barriers wise that we really wanted to look at too. So the first thing for us was the uniform. And so we had kind of an older style uniform. The pants were the same kind of pants that the local police department used. The vehicle graphics were the same vehicle graphics of the state police. Or similar colors, right? Similar style. The shirts were the bright yellow security looking shirts. We didn't look approachable, right? We looked like a law enforcement or a standard security. And so the first thing that we did was that we changed uniforms, right? We spoke with officers, we spoke with students, we spoke with staff. What is it about the current uniform or the visualization of the officer that you don't like or that doesn't make them approachable? What we found out from our staff was actually pretty remarkable, that the materials, right, solid polyester, was horrible. They had multiple different pieces of garments because they just weren't functioning right, and all sorts of weathers and conditions. Female officers were complaining about comfortability because there's no female cut sizes for pants and shirts and jackets, and so they were wearing male fitted clothing. They didn't use university colors, and students complained primarily that they weren't able to see with the clip-on badge names who the officer was, or if they were wearing a jacket, they wouldn't see it. And so we immediately went to a uniform vendor. We created a new uniform that utilizes the university's colors, big, bold name badge that's on both the jacket and on the uniform shirt itself. Materials that make sense given the climate that we work in. We have khaki pants, and so we're really going for this business casual approach, and a lot of it, right, has been overwhelmingly satisfied officer-wise, staff-wise on patrol. They're 10 times more comfortable walking around, which means that instead of driving around, they're now actually walking and engaging the students. Students have also been overjoyed with the ability to see someone walking around in their university colors, and they can identify campus safety much easier now. We also did the patrol vehicles. We completely redesigned all the vehicles that are in full wrap now. That was a really fun design by University Relations that has the mascots on them. Students have fallen in love with them. We took a look at our department logo, right? So the logo on screen here is what the new logo is, and it's the new patch on all the uniforms. Had that completely redesigned to be fresh and new, utilizing Old Main, which is the kind of pinnacle building on campus. As I said before, right, we changed the individual officer appearance so that they can start, looking a little bit more like themselves. We increased our visibility around campus. So we changed our shifts hours on our afternoon and overnight shift to 10-hour shifts. And what this allowed was a decent amount of overlap between the 11 p.m. and 1 a.m. time period, which we identified through some analytics was our highest crime time period. And so it moved our officer staffing from 7 to 8 officers or 9 officers on per shift to now during that time period, you have close to 20 plus officers that are walking around on campus during those peak crime hours. We instituted new practices where staff are constantly engaging with everyone they come across. We tell all of our staff, listen, it's as simple as, good morning, how are you today? Even if an individual's on their phone or they have their AirPods in, they're not paying attention, it doesn't matter, right? You never know how just that one, hey, how are you, could change an entire individual's day. Some other examples, right? So I created an assistant director of campus safety technology and campus engagement position. That's a long one, but the position is pivotal with all of our technology with CCTV, but primarily right in campus engagement. And so Allison Taddy in that position has done an incredible job, right, by starting to roll out our delivering of this customer model. By going to as many students events as possible. Just go, just have people go, have officers just participate. We're not there as campus safety, we're just there as people who want to have fun and learn more about whatever the club or organization is doing. That evolved into working with student groups to host activities, things like doing s'mores at a winter fest, or let's work together on this one item and launch it together. And now it's evolved into us just creating our own activities from which we offer the campus community. The most significant one that we did was during COVID, when we actually had students on campus. Students would be quarantined for 2 weeks in a quarantine residence hall, no contact with the outside world whatsoever, unless it was through, through Zoom or through phone calls. And so what we did is we created a campus safety cares program and launched that. And so we've made little home packages, right, with baked goods and coloring, adult coloring sheets and pens and little succulents that said COVID sucks on it. And we delivered these to all of the students that are there, just to remind students, hey, we're here, we care about you. We know that it's a hard time right now without that human interaction, but we're here. And here's the numbers to call us if you ever just want to talk, if you ever just want to connect. And it worked out really well with our students. We have to engage the customer where they are. And all of our customers right now, students-wise, are virtual. So we created a Facebook, a Twitter, an Instagram, and a LinkedIn account. And we're also working on a TikTok account currently. We're trying to figure out how to roll that out properly. And so our handle is at Safety Widener for all of those locations. I highly encourage everyone to go and take a look at all the fun activities that we do, and feel free to steal the ideas and use them on your own campus. We created all of those in August of 2020, and since that launch, we've had over 100,000 views across the platforms on all of our content. We have to meet the students where they are. Right. A couple of final things with delivering customer service. So being customer centric isn't always about sacrifice on your behalf as well. So I co-chaired a committee over the summer on changing the entire parking program, right? We eliminated all the parking permits and scoped them down to just 2, an 18-hour and a 24-hour with different rates. And by doing that, we worked with Student Government Association and Community Student Association and a Graduate Student Association to gather up their ideas and reformat it. Since we've launched that, we are currently at $80,000 in additional revenue above our highest grossing year ever. And so it shows that sometimes just taking a customer-centric approach, providing what it is that they need, it can benefit you as well, and the rest of the institution. So the biggest thing that skill-wise we try to get our officers to walk away from the training with is 3 skills: observation, curiosity, and initiative. With observations, we need our officers to walk around, not just pigeonholed on the task at hand, but looking more at a broader perspective from the customer's viewpoint. See the problems. We see the problems every day, and most people just write it off as that's not our job. Well, everything is our job in our department. And so it may not be your job to fix it, but it's at least your job to report it. And so we want officers to observe things that are wrong in the community from a customer perspective or unattractive. And then the second thing is just be curious about it, right? We need you to go out, not only recognize the issue, but see if there's anything that you can do to fix it right then and there. Ask a question, right? Investigate it further, and then take initiative, right? It's the smallest amount of effort to just take a little bit of initiative to quickly resolve that or bring it to the individuals who can resolve the problem for you. That just doesn't have to be extra, right? It doesn't have to be this big arduous thing. It could be something as simple as you're walking around campus and you see one of the little yard signs advertising something for the campus that's knocked over from the wind or it's bent. Just make it right. It looks nicer when it's right instead of all messed up. Or you see an empty bottle or wrapper on the ground, pick it up, throw it in the trash. Yes, we understand that there are people who's hired to do those jobs, but right now that bottle or that wrapper is negatively affecting the current or future customer opinions about the cleanliness of campus, and you can remedy that right then and there, right, with just that little bit of effort to do so. And so we're teaching our staff to walk around campus in that mindset. And the other thing that's helped is we've had our staff go on admission tours, right? Really understand what's going on. How are they selling the institution? What does prospective customers look like or look at when they're on their tours so that we can better offer those services?
I like the discussion of, I feel like obviously we cover campus safety all day, but I feel like I never hear it from the perspective of thinking of it as a business and the students as a customer. It's just a unique perspective, because I feel like it does take a unique officer to be on a college campus, because they need to be thinking with that in mind. I just think there are certain perspectives that they have to have and unique capabilities that they need to be effective on a college campus or even in a K through 12 campus. So.
Yeah, absolutely. And these principles aren't meant just for campus safety. They can be applied to any department at any institution, right? Everybody has a customer of some way, shape, or form. Doesn't matter what position you hold, you have a customer. Mm-hmm. And so if you really start to think about who that customer is and how you can provide better service, you're going to provide better service just because you thought about it.
Yeah, absolutely. And then the third principle we were going to talk about is ongoing improvement, and how important is that to you and your team, and what does that look like? Again, some of this might be overlapping, but that's fine.
Yeah. So the one thing I think everyone, any of my colleagues would admit to, is that we've all heard at one point in our careers, well, that's how we've always done it. And so that's the number one thing that should alert to you, hey, we really need to look into that. If that's how you've always done it, I guarantee there's a better way to do it now. And so, the exciting thing about being in higher ed is that you get a new group of customers every year. The challenge with that, right, is that that also comes with new expectations, new opportunities and engagements. So you can't really become stagnant in your approach to engagement. You have to develop constant information gathering practices to understand what the new customer really focuses on, so that you can provide it. You have to remain agile. And nothing is cookie cutter. Everything is a custom experience for that individual. So you have to constantly be meeting with student leaders and student groups. You have to be monitoring social media posts. And with social media, the biggest thing that I try to tell people is that you need constant engagement. You need to focus more on breadth of content rather than depth. The wider that you can get, the more people that you're likely to engage versus going really deep into anything, and have fun with it. Don't be doing just informational stuff. We do a lot of fun, meet the team people, or meet the staff, posts, all sorts of great fun. Consistent training with staff and staff huddles and staff exercises to sharpen and hone in their skills. And then consistent assessment of our customer service. Those conversations can never end. You constantly have to be meeting with student groups, staff groups, faculty groups to really understand, right, where you can improve or how the customer has changed and maybe they want something new. But at the end of the day, listen, the formula is simple. Ask the customer what they want, then provide that and something more. You should always be trying to exceed expectations. If you establish the first two principles that I talked about, which there was a lot there, but if you can establish those first two principles in the right way, principle number 3 comes pretty easy, because you're already going to have the processes in place where you'll be getting constant feedback from your customers on what they want. But then the fun part is just trying to find a way to provide it.
Yeah. Well, what's the saying? The only constant is change, right?
Right.
So people no one likes change, but you just got to get used to it. Like you're trying to do TikTok. I'm sure that's not.
Yeah. Oh, we're having a blast. We're having a blast figuring it all out and working it all out. So.
Yeah, I guess it depends on the person. To me, that sounds. I wouldn't be the one on your team volunteering for the TikTok, but
Yeah, and it's funny too because I have to lead by example, right? Like I have to show the team exactly what I'm talking about. And so, when we rolled out the new training program with myself and my associate director Kevin Rayport, we're the ones who did that. We have to show them what we're talking about. If I'm saying we need to have a TikTok, I need to be on TikTok, right? And I need to be consuming that content and understanding that content. Do I like to be on camera in that way? No, I would much rather be the person behind the scenes. But you know what? I have to step up because I'm asking my staff to step up.
Yeah.
And so it's important to just get out of your comfort zone a little bit and have fun.